In a survey of U.S. officers who served in the Vietnam War, 44% rated the South Vietnamese Liberation Army as good and gritty. One officer observed,
Americans tend to underestimate their opponents. In fact, the Vietnamese military is the best adversary the U.S. military has ever faced in history. Sir.
Along with that, General Lindsey Keong is an American historian with many years working in Vietnam. He once remarked that, Central Vietnam is where the most elite troops of the American Army confront the regular troops from North Vietnam. A Marine sergeant after a battle, suddenly told his commander,
Sir, the North Vietnamese soldiers are as good as we are.
It should be known that American Marines are the most elite fighters, chosen from the infantry. These can be said to be the most relevant evidence to show the stubbornness, will and intelligence of the Vietnamese army. As in the previous issue about Ho Chi, we have a certain image about it. Many people have wondered when did the Vietnamese army dig the Ho Chi tunnels? Who designed it? After digging the tunnel, where did the soil and sand hide so that it wouldn't be discovered? The answer is that there are no architects to design, that is the work of the people of Ho Chi. This is a work that the world's leading architects must also respect when known. The tunnel was made in 1948 to fight against the French. The French leaders of that day had argued that the Viet Minh were incapable of fighting a more modern and large Western army. That day, the French thought, just fight as many big campaigns they had fought, the Viet Minh had to surrender. However, when embarking on the implementation, they understand that it is a mistake. With the guerrilla tactic, the Vietnamese military has been proactive in everything, forcing the French to fight in their own style, making it more and more difficult. Fighting for a while, the French realized that the Viet Minh never wore uniforms and participated in fighting of all ages and genders. The biggest difficulty of the French was to identify what friends in the Viet Minh were. An all-people war that Vietnam deployed caused French soldiers, and later American soldiers, not knowing how to fight. At first, the Vietnamese soldiers dug small tunnels for the main purpose of defense, as long as they got underground to escape. However, they later realized that any tunnel can be used to attack because the tunneling helps them to get close to their enemy's armpits and deliver very dangerous attacks that surprise them. Since then, the Vietnamese army has come up with a way to connect the tunnels together. The more they beat, the more they expanded, and later on, the tunnel was 16,000 hectares wide, almost equivalent to an area of Washington, D.C. It was so big that people had to put road signs in a few places so that newcomers wouldn't get lost. Ho Chi is a very special place. The soil is gravel and rock, with extremely solid texture, very suitable for tunneling. To find groundwater there, dig down to a depth of about 25 to 30 meters. Tunneling in Ho Chi that day was very hard. In the dry season of hard soil, it took one day to dig a 6-meter-long tunnel. In the rainy season, soft soil can be excavated twice as fast. Having the strength to dig tunnels is one thing, it's so important where to throw the soil away. Letting the U.S. Army detect an attack, it is considered a failure. The people here have figured out how to carry the soil poured into the surrounding river, or spread it all over the forest. In many places, it was poured into the fields, or filled in bomb craters. The more bombs that destroy, the more holes Viet Cong has to dump soil on, the more convenient it is to camouflage to dig a tunnel. In the previous video we have seen, U.S. soldiers are always looking for ways to destroy the tunnels. They use tear gas, pumped water into the tunnel, and then even use loudspeakers to call their enemy to surrender. Maybe many of you will ask the question, so why does the U.S. not use bombs? But all that thought is just theory. That day, they even used 200 to 300 kilograms bombs to throw it down. Its destructive power was much worse than we thought, but then it was unable to destroy the tunnels simply because the Vietnamese military always knew the moment the U.S. Air Force bombs to dodge. If a bomb collapsed, it would only collapse a very small part of the hundreds of kilometers of tunnels. Regarding this, the Viet Cong reconnaissance team will give information about whenever the aircraft gathered in the airport is about to take off, it will definitely prepare to bomb. Or there is another simple way, which is that the Republic of Vietnam Army suddenly withdraws from an area, then that place will be where the bombs fell. Having that information helps the Viet Cong to greatly reduce losses. One more experience that is also classified as classics of the Vietnamese army is the belief in the bomb never being dropped into the same place twice. Each B-52 plane, when passing, usually leaves a long strip of bomb craters. A few minutes later there will be another plane coming, but let the next bomb fall right into the hole where the bomb before. That is a very difficult thing. That's why in between bombings, the Viet Cong will see where the crater was first created. If the pit is right above a tunnel but doesn't cause the tunnel to collapse, then they will go straight into hiding in the tunnel that was just hit by a bomb. This is a very good experience, which makes American pilots have to practice their whole life. It is unlikely that they can do it, that is to drop 2 bombs and let those 2 bombs fall in the same place. Bombing like that felt ineffective, and the Americans invented a new bomb with much greater damage. This bomb did not explode on the ground but went deep into the ground before the timer inside detonated. The depth when plugged into the ground depends on the topography and soil type. US F-5 aircraft kept swooping one hit to let the bomb fall at an appropriate angle drilled into the ground. This is a very dangerous type of attack, extremely high damage, but it requires the pilot to have very good technique. Knowing this type of attack, the Vietnamese soldiers have come up with a way to deal with it. That is, if they wait for it to dive down to them, they use a submachine and machine gun to shoot up. If the plane did not crash, they die. If the plane crashed, they had material to make a new pot and bowl to use. In 1969 an F-5 only dropped the bomb that hit the tunnel, killing 40 people. This is a number that can show how devastating a US bomb is. The damage is so much, but with this kind of attack, the Viet Cong only has that way uses to counter it. Both sides were damaged, but the US considered the campaign was not effective. That was why they had to give up. Bombing felt not good. The US turned to the option of taking bulldozers to plow Ho Chi up soil. The campaign was named Cedar Falls, which means to peel the earth because do not know exactly where the tunnel is located. That is why the US mobilizes a large number of troops. 12 vehicles, each weighing 60 tons, were lined up horizontally to plow the soil and Ho Chi up, dig down deeply, then send mines to strike. This new type of attack is very dangerous for the Vietnamese soldiers, but fortunately after the previous battle crimp they carefully strengthened and dug deeper, so less damage. Of course it is just a relief, but the damage to them is still great. For that reason, they had to think of a way to counter this tactic. Because of that, the Viet Cong had to think of a way to counter this tactic. Just stand still and let the US Army bomb. They would lose. That day they installed intelligence inside the US military ranks before, to get its information. Seeing that bulldozers are mobilized in the military base, they will find out what the US Army schedule is, how much in place to know. That is why the damage is also somewhat less. In addition to bulldozers, tanks are also something that American soldiers use regularly to beat tunnels that makes the Vietnamese Army extremely uncomfortable. Tanks are not only normal tanks, but the US Army also uses amphibious tanks. This tank was maneuverable on both the ground and below, making the soldiers and people of Ho Chi unable to live in peace. How did the Vietnamese Army counter modern American bulldozers and tanks in the Cedar Falls campaign? Why did the Viet Cong could not wait to fight American tanks? And why the Cedar Falls campaign was a pathetic failure? Let's find out in the next episode.
How do you think about this topic? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our videos and much more. Click on the screen to watch another thrilling video. Thank you for joining us. See you in the next one. Take care.